there, and welcome to Murder Most British. I'm Zach, the American of this outfit, and we consider you all right a sincere question.
I'm Rachel, the Brit around here, where you all right is just a friendly way to say hello.
Well, we have an absolutely fascinating case this week. Jigsaw Murders.
Yeah, this is a complex case, one that has really changed forensic science and how investigations are done.
Okay, let's get into the DeLorean and head back in time. September 29th, 1935, in the remote hills of Dumfriesshire. Did I say that right?
Dumfriesshire, I'm
Dumfriesshire.
guessing.
Well, it's in Scotland. A passerby crossing a bridge near Moffat notices something strange by Gardenholm Lynn, a secluded stream feeding the river Annan. And if I do get anything wrong, I do apologize. I am American. You'll just be like shaking your head over there going, oh my God, what is he doing?
No, I think I'll do all right, but I'm not quite sure.
Well, anyway, so the area is silent and windswept, more sheep than people. But the person that's passing by smells something terrible, an unmistakable stench of decay. They see a bundle wrapped in newspapers near the stream bank, half concealed in the brush. So it's like, wow, like what's over here? Like as you're walking along in the forest, you don't expect to see bundles and newspapers and stuff. But they were curious, uneasy. They move closer, and what they find is nightmarish, dismembered human remains, tightly wrapped. And it's not the only one that there is.
Nice. I mean, not something
Nice.
that you'd want to stumble across, is it really?
That's you again. Nice.
Nice. So anyway, the choice of Gardenholm Lynn wasn't random. This stretch of river sits in a deeply wooded cleft, with limited road access and little foot traffic. Whoever left the remains there had likely scouted it out, knowing it would take days or longer for anyone to stumble across them. If not for the passers-by, chance detour, the killer's plan to let nature do the dirty work might have succeeded. The ravine's isolation was both a shield and a trap, an area perfect for hiding a crime, but also preserving evidence in its untouched stillness.
The police are called. As soon as they arrive and open the packages, they find severed limbs, tissue, and bone, some barely recognizable as human. 2 heads, 1 torso, and over 70 body parts are recovered. And disturbingly, the faces and fingertips have been removed. Among the wrappings, police find copies of the Daily Herald and the Lancaster Guardian newspapers, dated September 8, 1935, pointing toward a recent crime and possibly toward Lancashire.
What a grim finding.
That's a lot
That
of
is
like
so
pieces.
Grim.
That's like a lot of pieces and stuff. And you're just like, what, like how many, like, is this like multiple people? Is it like 2 people, 5,
I mean, for the police, would they have some sort of idea that it would be more than one body? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, depending on the size of the pieces and that, but like animals and stuff could have come along and just took pieces away, ripped stuff open, so.
Definitely a grim discovery. The remains, they were identified as female. The surgical-like cuts suggest that the killer knew human anatomy and wanted these women to vanish without a trace. The methodical wrapping, using materials like oilcloth and twine, hinted at a killer who planned meticulously, perhaps even anticipating the river's flow to scatter the evidence. The choice of hat boxes was particularly chilling. Items so ordinary, yet used for something so grotesque.
Well, Inspector John Black of the Dumfriesshire Constabulary seals off the area, but the scale overwhelms the force. They call on the help of Scotland Yard, and suddenly this remote ravine is the center of a national murder investigation. At the time, it was virtually unheard of for such a rural scene to draw in Scotland Yard. The fact that they were dispatched so quickly underscored just how alarming the discovery was.
Well, more than a dozen officers were mobilised, including photographers, forensic cataloguers, and field examiners. Everything had to be preserved by hand, each bone labelled and drawn, each scrap of wrapping documented. Nothing could be rushed. Even the smallest mistake might erase a vital detail. The police, accustomed to petty theft or livestock disputes, were suddenly thrust into a case that demanded precision and expertise far beyond their usual scope.
The press jumps on it immediately, calling it the Jigsaw Murders, a name that captures the gruesome reality. The remains are in various stages of decomposition and teeming with blowfly larvae. Scotland Yard calls in Professor John Glaister, a renowned forensics pathologist from Glasgow. He recognizes that insects might hold the key to the timeline and brings in Dr. A.G. Mearns, an entomologist, to assist. Mearns doesn't flinch at the maggots. He sees them as a timeline to discover, and this was groundbreaking in 1935. Most police forces in the UK have never worked with an entomologist before.
His work required painstaking observation, measuring larvae length, noting their developmental stage, and cross-referencing with weather data from the local chilly September. This wasn't guesswork, it was science, one that turned insects into silent witnesses. The press, fascinated by this novel approach, began publishing diagrams of blowfly life cycles, fueling public curiosity.
Mearns studies the blowfly larvae, specifically Calliphora vicina. His findings are striking. The bodies had likely been dumped in mid-September as they were 12 to 14 days old. This timeline is corroborated by the newspaper wrappings dates. It's September 8th. Suddenly, this points the police to Lancaster, a city 100 miles south. And while today we might expect timestamps or GPS data, this was 1935. No digital clocks, no surveillance footage, just larvae and newsprint.
Can you imagine trying to solve crimes back in 1935 and you've got no forensic DNA stuff that they've got today? How little you would have to go on to try and solve a crime.
That's when they call it, hard police work. They really had to look at every single thing and find out whatever they could to point them in the direction.
Yeah, luckily, they didn't have no digital forensics or anything like that like we have nowadays. And back then, they had basically people around the vicinity just to ask if they see anything, or they didn't really have a great deal to go on. It was the kind of scientific detective work that would later become foundational to modern crime scene analysis. The larvae's growth stages were cross-checked against weather records from nearby weather stations, a process that required Mearns to account for variables like humidity and rainfall. This level of detail was unprecedented, and it gave investigators a narrow window to focus their search.
Police traced newspapers to specific kiosks in Lancaster. These weren't national editions. They were hyper-local, sold at just a few stands. The wrappings themselves, twine, oilcloth, hat boxes, suggested a calculating mind, someone methodical. The removal of faces, eyes, teeth, and fingertips wasn't impulsive. It was strategic. The police suspect the killer had medical knowledge and something to hide. At this point, Scotland Yard's forensic capacity was still evolving.
Britain had no national crime lab. Most forensic work was done in university departments, and collaboration between police and scientists was still rare. Martin's team worked closely with Glasgow University, where pathologists and entomologists shared notes in real time, a rarity for the era. Forensics in 1935 are rudimentary. No DNA, no centralised fingerprint system, but they did have blood typing.
On October 3rd, Scotland Yard issues an appeal for missing women. Hundreds of responses pour in, but none match. Investigators find a few scraps of clothing, a torn blouse, part of a skirt, but little else. Lancaster police join the effort, pacing down the newspaper trail, but answers are scarce. And across the country, people were riveted. Newspapers ran maps, diagrams, even fictionalized confessions. Then comes a breakthrough. Around mid-October, Dr. John Glaister officially takes on the lead forensic reconstruction. He studies the incisions and confirms the use of surgical instruments. His team starts the painstaking process of reconstructing the bodies, matching the bones, measuring femurs, analyzing vertebrae. The killer removed the eyes and most of the teeth, making identification even harder, yet public obsession grows. Rumors swirl of some sort of mass murderer or a doctor gone rogue.
Let's now head to Lancaster and introduce Dr Buck Ruxton. Born in 1899 in Bombay, nowadays known as Mumbai, had been built a thriving medical practice at 2 Dalton Square.
Oh, wait. Buck Ruxton. That just, I'm sorry, that sounds like a porn name. Dr. Buck Ruxton will see you now. Oh, yeah. Like, what?
So funny.
So he just, uh, like, changed his name. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Is he, I'm not going to say, I'm going to murder.
He did have a really long name.
Here, oh, I'm going to
Give it a go.
I'm
Go
going to
on.
murder his name.
I mean, to be fair, like seeing his real name, and hearing his real name, you can get why he called himself Buck, because it is part of the beginning of his original name before he changed it. So, are you going to give it a go? There's no way I'm going to be able to say it, but I do remember that it had Buck something, like it was one word, and Buck was the beginning, just BUC, and then something or other. Good luck.
Oh my god. Yeah. It's Buktyar Shampa Rustamji Ratanji Hakim.
I mean,
And he chooses Buck Ruxton. That's
I
amazing.
like it better. It's a lot easier to pronounce, definitely.
That is amazing.
But yeah, and obviously, back in 1935, obviously it was known as Bombay, and then they changed the name of Bombay to Mumbai.
Well, yeah, but like he had to what so-called anglicize his name to fit in more.
Yeah, I think, anybody would, just to make it a little bit easier to integrate with, obviously, his patients and things like that. It would be easier to just call him Ruxton, doctor. Anyway, he was a Parsi who studied at the University of Bombay and later in London. At home in his grand Victorian residence, he lived with his common law wife Isabella Ruxton, their 3 children, Elizabeth, Diane, and William. They also lived with their live-in maid, 21-year-old Mary Rogerson. To patients, Ruxton was charismatic and attentive, but inside the walls of his home, tensions were escalating fast. Ruxton's polished exterior masked deep insecurity, plagued by paranoia and financial strain from his extravagant lifestyle.
Isabella, known to friends as Belle, was outgoing and sociable, working part-time at Lancaster City Cafe. Mary, hired in 1934, managed household tasks and looked after the children, becoming a quiet but vital part of the family. But in 1935, Ruxton's jealousy over Belle's friendliness to others turned obsessive. The household, still charming on the outside, was now walking on a razor's edge. Belle's warmth, so natural in Lancaster's tight-knit community, clashed with Ruxton's need for control. The cafe, a bustling hub where locals exchanged gossip over tea, amplified his fears. Every smile Belle shared with a customer or a friend fed his suspicions, which festered in a town where social standing was everything. For a man like Ruxton, whose identity just hinged on respectability, her independence felt like a public betrayal.
Patients adored Ruxton. He greeted them with warmth and treated them affordably. But in his home, his demeanour was anything but gentle. He obsessively monitored Belle's movements, read her letters, and questioned her about casual encounters. Neighbours later reported hearing fights late into the night. Mary, though discreet, witnessed the emotional chaos, and her loyalty to Belle likely didn't go unnoticed by Buxton.
Ruxton's practice, while successful, was a financial tightrope. He offered low fees to win loyalty, but the cost of maintaining a lavish home, complete with imported furniture and fine china, strained his income. Lancaster's conservative society expected doctors to embody moral and financial stability, and Ruxton's outward generosity masked mounting debts. This pressure cooker of pride and paranoia turned small slights into imagined conspiracies, with Belle at the center of his unraveling mind.
The atmosphere thick with tension. Neighbours like Miss Agnes Oxley recalled frequent arguments, especially by July 1935. Ruxton's unfounded accusations of Belle's infidelity echoed through the house. His paranoia, later detailed in police records, led him to trail Belle through Lancaster. Mary, once a quiet background figure, was now caught in the crossfire, trusted by Belle, resented by Ruxton, and close enough to see the cracks spreading fast.
By August, Arguments escalated in volume and frequency. A 1930 incident, unreported but confirmed later, had seen Ruxton physically assault Bell in a jealous rage. That early flash of violence hinted at what was coming. The 1930 assault, though hushed up, had left ripples. Neighbors whispered about Bell's occasional bruises, quickly explained away by accidents. By 1935, Lancaster's social circles were beginning to notice Ruxton's erratic behavior. A missed appointment here, a curt reply there. His charm, once effortless, now seemed forced, as if the effort of maintaining his public persona was cracking under the weight of private turmoil.
Well, around September 15th, that storm broke. Investigators later concluded that Ruxton likely strangled Bell upstairs in their home, possibly in the hallway outside of the bedroom, during a furious outburst. The precise trigger is unknown, but is likely another paranoid belief that Bell was cheating. The violence was immediate. Bell, wife, mother, and anchor of the household, was dead.
The murder, though impulsive in its rage, bore the marks of Ruxton's medical precision. The hallway, narrow and dimly lit, was a private space where no patient or neighbor could intrude. Yet the act left traces, scuffs on the floor, an overturned lamp that would later catch the eye of investigators. Bell's death marked the point of no return for Dr. Ruxton.
Well, Mary Rogerson likely met her end shortly after. Police believed that she either witnessed Bell's murder or stumbled upon the body. Fearing exposure, Ruxton killed her too, probably in the same brutal fashion. In just a few hours, the two women closest to him were gone, and Ruxton, once a healer, now faced the unthinkable, disposing of their remains. Ruxton turned to his surgical skills. In the bathroom, he worked methodically with medical instruments, scalpels, saws, knives, dismembering both of their bodies. He removed limbs, heads, faces, teeth, and fingerprints, anything that could aid identification.
That's pretty brutal.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have a strong stomach to be doing things like that. I mean, obviously, went for him that he was a doctor. He's obviously been trained in maybe,
Just to have the calm to be able to do something. But it's like, that's your wife and your maid, two people you see every day, and you're just cutting them up. That's just awful.
And I think, how mentally capable could you be when there is that connection with somebody so close, it must have been hard.
Maybe it's just like that doctor switch. You just turn off that part and just do the work that needs work doing. So that's...
I am fascinated by criminal minds, and what makes them do things they do and how they can stomach to do certain things that they do in some of their crimes. It's especially something so grotesque.
Well, let's see. The bathroom with its white tiles and clawfoot tub was an ideal workspace. Ruxton's training allowed him to work quickly, but the sheer volume of the remains required hours of grueling effort. The house, usually filled with laughter of children, was silent except for the metal scrapes and the rustle of newspapers.
Very creepy. I wonder where the children were. Maybe up in bed.
Yeah, they were probably sleeping through it.
Yeah, how horrific. The bathroom was a horror scene. Blood soaked the floor tiles. Bits of body tissue clung to porcelain. Ruxton wrapped the remains in layers of newspaper, some parcels tied in hat boxes, others in oilcloth. He loaded the grim cargo in his blue Ford V8 saloon. Then, under the cover of darkness, he headed north, to Moffat and Scotland, hoping to disappear the evidence as far away from his home as he could. The journey to Moffat was no quick escape. It was a grueling 5 to 6 hour drive on narrow, winding roads. Ruxton's Ford was not built for a trip like that, especially with its grotesque heavy load.
Drive itself was a gamble. The 1930s roads were rough, and nighttime travel was rare. Ruxton likely drove with the windows down to mask the smell, his mind racing to justify each step. The River Lynn, chosen for its isolation, was a place few visited, but its very remoteness preserved the evidence, as the parcels were caught in the underbrush rather than washing away as he'd hoped.
Well, after travelling back to his home in Lancaster on the next day, September 16th, Ruxton began spinning lies. He told neighbours Bell had gone to visit his visit family in Blackpool and claimed that Mary had taken a new job. But his stories were inconsistent and concern began to grow. That same day, he reported both women missing to the police. Officers noted his outward concern, but also his shifting accounts and agitated demeanour. Something didn't quite add up.
The police, initially sympathetic to the respected doctor, were unprepared for a case of this magnitude. Their early inquiries were cautious, focusing on verifying Ruxton's claims rather than suspecting him. This hesitation gave Ruxton a brief window to clean up.
Ruxton bought gallons of bleach and disinfectant from the local chemist, William Clark, scrubbing down the bathroom in a frenzy. Despite his efforts, blood remained in the grout and a foul odour hung in the house. Mechanic Thomas Smith later reported seeing bloodstains and smelling an overpowering stench in Ruxton's car.
The bleach that was purchased from that chemist, Clark, he knew Ruxton well and noted the unusual quantity. The car, a status symbol for the doctor, became a liability as the smell lingered, noticeable even to passers-by. Ruxton's attempt to erase the physical evidence only drew more attention as the chemical scent mixed with decay, creating a haunting signature of guilt. Oh yeah,
I don't think you could. I mean, I've never smelt, a decayed dead
well,
body.
just like rotting meat mixed with bleach and then blood.
Rotting meat. I mean, I think that, from all the cases that I've read about or heard about, I think it's even more of a distinctive smell than that, of rotting
Yeah, I'm just saying.
animal meat. I think
What
it's
I was saying
completely
was
different.
just what I was saying was just think of rotting meat and mixed with bleach smell.
I mean, rancid, a
Yeah,
rancid smell,
yeah,
just
and you're just
something
like,
that you probably would never, ever forget.
it's like, what'd you do to your car, man? Like, that stinks. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna remember that. You're like, oh, that's weird.
Especially if it's not a smell that you've smelt before. The bathroom drains were clogged with human fat. The walls still showed signs of splatter. Newspapers used to wrap the remains were traced back to local shops. Proof that Ruxton hadn't dumped just any paper, but ones tied directly to Lancaster. By September 20th, neighbours like Mrs. Oxley noticed the once confident doctor behaving nervously, pacing and fumbling with his words. The polished mask of Dr. Ruxton was slipping for good.
The drains, a grim detail, revealed the limits of Ruxton's cleanup. Human fat resistance to his frantic scrubbing clogged the pipes, forcing him to call a plumber who later tipped off the police.
His missing persons report sounded rehearsed, too composed, too scripted. He told patients that Belle was in Scotland, told others that she was in Blackpool.
Well, the suspicions and were once unthinkable was now unavoidable. The report, filled with a practiced calm, it backfired. Officers noted discrepancies in his timeline.
Ruxton's surgical know-how had helped him dismantle the bodies, but it couldn't shield him from oversight. The Morecambe Visitor, found among the body wrappings, was a local newspaper not sold in Scotland. The Sunday Graphic, also Lancaster-sourced, pointed detectives straight back to the city of Lancaster. By September 30th, his own housekeepers complained of the lingering smell and stains.
Well, Ruxton's belief in his own cleverness blinded him to the mounting evidence. The newspapers, the blood, the smell, all were clues he underestimated, assuming his medical expertise would outwit a small-town police force. But Lancaster was watching, and the Jigsaw Murders were no longer a secret, and the community's whispers turned into a roar that would soon reach Scotland Yard.
On October 13th, 1935, Scotland Yard targeted Dr Buck Ruxton. Following forensic links to dismembered remains found in Moffat, Scotland, Detective Lieutenant Bert Hammond and Sergeant Robert Duncan searched Ruxton's home at 2 Dalton Square. They uncovered bloodstains on bathroom tiles, human fat in drains. Mechanic Thomas Smith examined Ruxton's Ford V8 saloon, identifying blood-soaked upholstery and a persistent odour. Ruxton was arrested for the murders of his common-law wife, Isabella, and their maid, Mary Rogerson, was remanded to Strangeways Prison in Manchester. He denied all the charges, claiming in prison correspondence that police planted evidence due to his Parsi background. Basically, he's accusing them of being racist.
Possibly, yes. He did change his name, and there was that sort of stigma and racism and stuff like that. But he was a respected guy. Like, everybody liked him in Lancaster. He didn't have a bad reputation or anything. So, but then
Well,
he's
by
like,
all accounts, he seemed to be from all his patients that he was a really great doctor. So
yeah, he's probably going, oh well, I'm the odd one out, so they're targeting me. That type of thing. So,
just
but
doing what he can to try and get away with it, I guess.
yeah. Well, let's see. The search revealed blood-soaked rags behind a staircase and a carpet with human blood. Smith's report noted the Ford V8 upholstery contained blood traces confirmed by forensic tests, and a foul smell persisted despite cleaning attempts. Lancaster police interviewed local vendors, confirming Ruxton frequently purchased the Lancaster Guardian and the Sunday Graphic newspapers used to wrap the Moffat remains at a kiosk 200 yards from his residence. Chemist William Clark reported Ruxton bought 2 gallons of bleach on September 16th, the day after the victim's disappearance.
Forensic evidence was pivotal. Serology tests conducted at Glasgow University confirmed blood in Ruxton's home matched Isabella's type B and Mary's type A. Using the Landsteiner blood grouping system, a novel application in 1935 Britain, the Morecombe visitor found with the remains was sold only in Lancaster. A blood-stained shirt in a closet and traces in the Ford V8's interior tested positive for human blood. Ruxton's letters from Strangeways, totaling 17 pages, alleged a police frame-up, citing his ethnicity as a motive, but forensics consistency undermined his claims.
Yeah, he's going for the racism angle,
Yeah.
to be like, you're coming after me, and they're like, well, what about all this blood and the fat in the drain? And
Evidence, you can't hide from the evidence. The evidence is, the truth of, you can't sit there and say, oh, well, it's not her blood when, yeah, the police are really going to put tissue up your wall in your bathroom and your bits down your drain,
the police didn't stop there. They interviewed 43 witnesses in Lancaster, including neighbor Elizabeth Kerwin, who noted Ruxton's late night activity after September 15th, and patient Jane Wilson, who observed his distracted demeanor during a September 17th consultation. The kiosk vendor John Harris confirmed Ruxton's daily newspaper purchases, including the Sunday Graphic edition, found with the remains. The investigation involved 12 officers and took 72 hours to secure the Dalton Square residence. They were being thorough. Very. They're like, yep, he got these here. They got these newspapers here. This is that. And this, well, he was skittish in this consultation. He bought these bleach. Yep, okay, that all matches up. Pretty buttoned up now. Got him.
The trial began March 2nd, 1936 at Manchester Court, presided over by Justice Charles Singleton. Crown Prosecutor Norman Burkett presented 28 exhibits, including blood samples, newspaper wrappings, and surgical tools. Entomologist Dr. Alexander Mearns testified that blowfly larvae on the remains indicated a time of death between September 15th and September 17th of 1935. Based on larval development cycles, Dr. John Glaister Jr. and Dr. Sidney Smith detailed 73 body parts with cuts consistent with a scalpel and surgical saw. On March 4th, Glaister introduced photographic superimposition, aligning skull fragments with photographs of Isabella and Mary, a technique developed at Glasgow University. A fingerprint on a preserved hand, analysed by Scotland Yard's Fingerprint Bureau, matched Mary Rogerson's record from a prior employment check.
Yeah, I loved those pictures. It was so like you think of it now, and you're just like, well, that seems like
yeah.
simple and just
We do have some photos, so they will be, obviously, you can see them.
yeah, we'll put them up on like Instagram and stuff, but it's like they just blew up the pictures and the X-rays.
They kind of overlaid, didn't they?
Yeah, they positioned like they would position the skull in the same way as she would be in the picture, and then shoot the X-ray, and then they blew it up and then put it next to her photo, right over top of it, or not next to it, sorry, on top of it, and they're like, "Yep, that's her."
And wasn't this the first time that they used that technique to
Yeah.
do it?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. It's like you as long as you kind of had you're like, oh well, I think it's this person, but the remains are so decomposed and stuff, you can't really see who they are. It's
I
just a
suppose,
skull.
like matching up with the skull shape and things.
Yeah,
You know, where the jawline is, and
yeah. So it's like even though he took the teeth out and that, they meshed everything else, the brow ridge, the where the nose would go, the jawline, everything matched up. So
well,
it was
obviously
really
they would have known, like with the size of like adult teeth, how big they would be and where they would position to in the photograph. So they could obviously judge it by that as well, couldn't they? Kind of assume that the teeth would be there and match it up.
The trial drew 37 journalists and 120 spectators daily, with 15 extra seats added for public observers. Glaister's superimposition involved 14 photographic overlays using a Bausch and Lomb projector to align cranial features with known images of the victims.
Fascinating.
Witness Agnes Oxley testified Ruxton burned rags in his garden on September 16th, observed from her adjacent property. The prosecution called 19 witnesses, including forensics experts, police, and locals over 6 days, building a timeline from September 15th to the October 13th arrest.
Well, on March the 7th, Ruxton testified, claiming that Isabella and Mary left voluntarily on September the 15th, and the bloodstains resulted from medical procedures. He alleged that police planted evidence, citing a 1934 dispute with Lancaster authorities over a parking fine as proof of bias. Burkett's crazy.
They're planting evidence on me for these murders because I disputed a parking ticket. That's my evidence.
That's ridiculous.
He's going into.
He's really trying.
He's just going into it like they just. But I think for me, in my like opinion, they have nothing. They have nothing to defend. The defense. I feel bad for the defense attorney because he's just like, what the fuck do I do now?
You can just imagine it, couldn't you? Like, yeah, my client is innocent.
You sit there for 6 days with the prosecution. They lay out.
You come.
They lay out the absolute bomb diggity of evidence, and you're just like, fuck.
How do stitching me up over a parking fine.
That's all you've got?
Yep.
Oh, man, I would have been like, if I was that attorney, I would have turned to old Buck Ruxton and say, man, you're fucked. I got to do my job, and yep, it was racism.
Burkett's cross-examination exposed inconsistencies, noting Ruxton's timeline conflicted with witness accounts. Kerwin testified to hearing Ruxton's car late on September 15th, and Wilson reported his erratic behaviour during a medical visit. Forensic tests confirmed a scalpel and saw from Ruxton's medical bag matched bone cuts, with microscopic analysis revealing identical blade striations. A bloodstained shirt tested positive for Isabella's type B blood.
Burkett questioned Ruxton for 3 hours, citing 12 contradictions, including his claim of treating patients on September 16th, despite no appointments recorded in his log. Kerwin's statement, corroborated by her husband, detailed Ruxton's pacing from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. on September 15th. Wilson's testimony, given on March 8th, noted Ruxton's failure to complete her prescription break from his usual diligence. Mechanic Thomas Smith testified on March 10th, confirming the blood in the Ford V8's rear seat and trunk, with chemical tests detecting hemoglobin. Clark's bleach purchase record cross-referenced with shop ledgers showed Ruxton's signature, dated September 16th. But you know, it was that parking ticket, you know, like it's that dispute. They just planted everything.
Yeah, but then it's like with everybody, all his patients, noticing his difference in behaviour from a certain date onwards compared to all the other times that they've seen him, interacted with him. Clearly, people are observant of other people's behaviours that if they're not behaving in a normal way.
And like they said, it's like a close knit community, and this ain't 2025 where everybody's on their
Nobody
phones.
knows each nobody.
Yeah, these people are just hanging out, reading books and shit. Like, whoa, hey, look over there. It's old Buck Ruxton. What's he doing out at 2 a.m.? Or
Back in them days, I mean, they probably went to the doctors like 3-4 times a week, just to check in on themselves.
something to
some sort of ailment, or just to even just have a coffee and a chinwag,
Yeah, they're gonna know people's movements, and like I said, they lived in adjacent places. Like they could hear him walking around. They're like, "Hey, bro, I'm trying to sleep," and they just can remember stuff like that. And yeah,
especially if the behaviour is out of the norm.
Definitely.
Well, on March the 11th, Glaister presented 18 enlarged superimposition images demonstrating a 95% match between skull fragments and victim photographs. Based on cranial suture patterns, bone cuts aligned with a 10-inch surgical saw from Ruxton's bag. The Lancaster Guardian Rapin edition, dated September 8, 1935, was purchased from Harris's kiosk, confirmed by sale records. Forensic serology, using precipitin tests, identified human blood in the drains, with 80% confidence of matching Isabella's type. The prosecution rested after 7 days, submitting 34 pieces of physical evidence and 22 witness statements.
I'm just thinking of that defense attorney again. I'm sorry. I'm just oh man,
that's a lot.
That's a lot. They man, these guys they did their job to 110%.
I mean, did they really have sort of any crazy crimes like this back then? Was it a regular thing? Probably not. So then,
yeah, But even then, they were just like, okay, we've got this, and they didn't stop.
Yeah,
and it's just amazing police work, and I've really got to take my hats off to them. That was just amazing.
Obviously, we've got some attached to this. We've got photos of some of the police that were involved in this case.
Yep.
They're quite interesting for you to see.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just a lot of cool stuff, and they're all wearing suits. I love a good suit.
They do look good. I mean, the police should be walking around wearing that sort of stuff now, not these bright yellow fluorescent vests, I would call them.
Yeah, a nice suit, a nice hat. They look amazing, but they like I said, they did a great job. So yeah, like the courtroom processed 9 forensic reports, including 4 from Glasgow University and 3 from Scotland Yard. Oxley's testimony about the garden fire was supported by ash samples containing cotton fibers matching the blood-soaked rags. The investigation logged 1,200 man-hours, with 8 officers analyzing the Moffat dump site, recovering 43 body parts across a 200-yard radius. Public interest peaked, with 1,500 newspapers sold daily in Manchester during the trial. Lancaster's, that's huge.
That's a lot of newspapers. Flipping out.
1,500 a day.
I mean, I don't know. We'll have to research it and see what the population of Manchester was in that that year.
But just
1,500 per day is a crazy amount.
Like me, even back then, I probably wouldn't buy a newspaper every day.
Yeah.
But just to hear this or read about it, I'd be like, wow,
Sounds like the public were really hooked on this case.
Just like nowadays with serial killers and all that, they just like, oh my gosh, there's like a new one, or they caught one or something. Anyways, the Lancaster's medical community, led by Dr. Henry Moore, issued a statement on March 9th calling for stricter oversight of physicians' practices, which is, fair. I mean, keep an eye on people, but it could be a knee-jerk reaction as well. It's not all the doctors are running around killing people and chopping them up.
Burkitt's closing argument on March 12th summarised 28 key evidence points, including the newspaper trail, surgical cuts, and serology results. He cited 14 witness testimonies, establishing Ruxton's actions from September 15th to the 17th. Jurors reviewed 11 diagrams of dismembered remains, with 73 parts mapped to Isabella, 47, and Mary, 26. Burkett's 90-minute closing cited 19 forensic findings, including hemoglobin traces and larval data, to refute Ruxton's alibis.
90 minutes. Old boy Couper said, I got this. 90 minutes, he spoke, laying it all out. Said, I got you. You know what Ruxton's defense did?
What'd he do? What'd they do?
Old J.C. Jackson. Dude, I'm so sorry.
How many witnesses did he have for defense?
4.
No way.
He had 4 witnesses, including a former patient claiming Ruxton's kindness, but offered no forensic rebuttal whatsoever.
Holy Christ. That is crazy.
He was a good guy.
That's it. Done. That's all I can tell you.
Oh, I don't know what that witness come in and said, I got you, man. I'm going to help you out. Dr. Ruxton was great. And that's it.
Terrible.
How could you just not, as Ruxton, just go, let's just stop. I'm guilty.
Yeah.
I'm guilty. Like, just stop this.
Yeah. I think if you've literally, all you've got is like pretty much one, obviously on the defense, is going to be a witness that says that he was just a kind man. That's it. Nothing, no evidence to say, well, no, actually, he wasn't in this location at this time, Yeah.
I feel bad for the defense attorney. Like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, you had such a hard job. Like, you got fucked.
I mean, imagine if you was a defense attorney and you looked at this case and you had to defend this guy with all that evidence against him.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder how... We couldn't find out how long the defense was giving their little speech thing. Was it?
Like, they probably presented evidence for like a day.
I know, they could... If the
prosecution did 7 days.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, like,
the defense was like half a day.
The actual, if they were doing 90 minutes, I mean,
racism, and his friend said he's a good guy.
Yeah, probably only spoke for about 10 minutes.
The prosecution's evidence, spanning 62 lab tests, overwhelmed Ruxton's claims of a conspiracy. Jackson's defense rested after 2 hours, unable to counter the superimposition evidence. Just 2 hours.
Not very surprising, is it?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jackson. Whoever assigned you this
made you fail.
Ouch. But yeah, that's rough.
Yeah. Well, on March 13th, after 62 minutes of deliberation, so just 62 minutes, the jury deliberated.
They did the paperwork and that probably. They were just yep, you good? You want to have a coffee, tea? Yeah. Let's just have a little chin wag. Cause
we need to stay in here longer than like 20 minutes.
Yeah, let's fill out the paperwork. Yep. Good. You good? You good? Yep. Oh, this is nice coffee.
It took 62 minutes of deliberation. The jury convicted him on both counts. Justice Singleton sentenced him to death, calling the murders premeditated and brutal. The trial introduced 3 forensic firsts in Britain: perimposition, larval dating, mass serology application. Court records note that 1,400 pages of evidence, including 28 lab reports and 44 witness statements. Craziness.
And you had the death penalty back then as well.
Yeah, we did.
It wasn't abolished yet. So yeah, it's like you will hang by the neck.
I mean, there is discussion of, obviously, at the moment, of whether or not to bring it back. But, obviously you've got it in some states in America, haven't you? But yeah, back then it was death penalty was on the table.
Well, it wasn't long before old Buck Ruxton was executed by hanging at age 37 years by Albert Pierrepont in May 12th of 1936 as Strangeways, with 2 witnesses present. And just aside, Albert Pierrepont, he did I think it was between 400 to 600 executions in his career of, I think it was 25 years.
Oh, so they didn't do it there's a lot, but then it's not a lot. If you know what I mean, over 20 odd years.
Yeah, he was thorough.
Yeah.
But yeah, the case, it cost £6,800 total. I can't remember what it was. I didn't put it in there. It was including the investigation. It set a precedent for forensic-led prosecutions, with 12 subsequent British cases citing its methods by 1940.
Days before, Ruxton confessed to the murders in writing. He stated in a letter that he killed Mrs. Ruxton in a fit of temper, then Mary Rogerson in panic, and dismembered them. He remained calm at the gallows.
Yeah, I mean, he's just probably like, yep,
Finally come clean.
just come clean with it. Not all of the, killers and all that, when they went to the death chamber, not all of them would go, yep,
Yeah.
before I go, here it is. Let me lay it out for you. That would leave the families with unanswered questions and stuff like that. Even with the overwhelming evidence, you
Yeah.
still wanted them to say, yes,
Of
I
course.
was the one that did it, but
The Jigsaw Murders changed everything. Entomology pinpointed the time of death. Gold superimposition confirmed identity. Bloodstain analysis and fingerprinting stood up in court. It was a forensic revolution. At 2 Dalton Square, a killer tried to erase evidence, but science exposed every lie. The case spurred universities to expand forensic programs, with Glasgow and Edinburgh leading the charge. Police forces across Britain began training officers in scientific methods, recognising their power to solve complex crimes. The revolution wasn't just technical, it shifted public trust from instinct to evidence, redefining how justice was pursued in the face of calculated evil.
the case cemented forensics in the courtroom as well. Superimposition, larval dating, blood typing, they were all firsts in British law and proved vital. Tracing newspapers to a local kiosk turned out to be his biggest mistake. He tried to silence Isabella and Mary, but science spoke louder. The case's legacy reached beyond Britain, influencing practices in Europe and America. The legal journalists, they hailed the trial as a benchmark, with superimposition becoming a standard in cases lacking traditional identifiers. The newspapers, once a mundane detail, became a symbol of the killer's hubris, proving that even the smallest clue could unravel the most meticulous crime.
Ruxton's respectable facade masked the dark truth. As the Daily Mirror reported, the Doctor of Death was unmasked not by confession, but by evidence. The Jigsaw Murders became a case study in forensic justice. It taught investigators to trust the clues the dead leave behind. Textbooks on criminology began citing the case, with chapters dedicated to its forensic breakthroughs. Detectives inspired by Glaister and Smith adopted a new mantra: let the evidence speak. The trial's impact lingered in police training manuals, ensuring that future investigations would prioritise science over speculation, a legacy born from the tragedy of 2 women's deaths. One chilling artefact connected to the case is the very bath where Buck Ruxton dismembered his victims. This grim piece of history is now on display at the newly opened Lancashire Police Museum, housed within Lancaster Castle.
Oh my God. You can actually go see the tub.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. No way.
Yeah. I will post a photo, but there is a photo as well, so I can show it to you, but they've got a plaque and everything. But yeah,
You
it's
think they'd
housed
let me
in.
jump in it and
Oh,
have
I don't know
have a
about
picture?
that.
Like, take a
God.
picture of me. Ah.
No.
No,
You wouldn't want to
that'd
do
be
that.
bad. That would be bad taste. Bad taste. Yeah, that's crazy. Like they've got it on display and everything. But
Yeah, so you could actually go and visit it, and go and see it for yourself. But I mean, it's just a bath, but
yeah, but it's like, how much it affected criminal investigations
yeah.
is good that it's there to be like, this is the turning point of
Yeah,
forensics.
definitely.
And if it's unfortunate that like what happened, but what came from it, the memory of Isabella and Mary, their case helped solve so much more all
It
through,
changed
from that.
history, it did change history within the justice system and the way that police investigate things. And yeah, obviously they use stuff like that nowadays as well. So, well, anyway, guys, that was the story of Dr. Buck Ruxton and the Jigsaw Murders. If you enjoyed listening, please give us a like and a follow and rate us. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at MurderMostBritish and on Facebook at MMB Podcast.
Thanks for joining us on this dark journey. It's a grim tale, but also a hopeful one. Science can illuminate even the darkest crimes. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.